Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. You're watching Diplomatic Enclave and I'm your host Khalid Butt. In today's episode, we're going to talk to a representative of an organization that represents 28 countries, a politico-social union of countries that are present in the European continent. That is, of course, the European Union. And we have with us the Deputy Head of Mission of the European Union, His Excellency Mr. Stefano Gatto. Mr. Gatto, thank you very much to have joined us today. Mr. Gatto, first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself. Since how long are you in Pakistan?
2 years now, it's almost 2 years. I will be leaving soon actually, but yes, it has been a period of 2 years for me in Pakistan.
And Mr. Gatto, how long does a diplomat belonging to the European Union stay in a country?
Usually the periods are always of 4 years, including in Pakistan, is always 4 years. I always been posted during 4 years to all my previous countries. In this case, I will stay only 2 years because I've been appointed ambassador elsewhere. I will be leaving soon.
Right.
So I terminate my period in Pakistan slightly early. It's not that we have a shorter period in Pakistan. Some states, they have a shorter period in Pakistan because sometimes they are, for security reasons, the diplomats are not accompanied by their families, so they stay only 2 years.
Right,
but in our case, we come with our families. We are
right.
with my spouse, and so we don't have this exception. But so it's shorter for me just for exceptional reasons.
All right. Mr. Gatto, tell us a little bit about the European Union for those who do not know. 6 founding members.
Exactly.
When and how did it start and why did it start?
Well, the reason why the European Union started with 6 member states at the beginning, it was not called the European Union at the time, it was called the European Community, or more exactly the European Communities. It started with 6 member states, as you said. It was France, Germany, Italy, and the 3 Benelux, which means Belgium, Netherlands, and Luxembourg. This is the core of the European integration. And the reason why was World War II, the effects of World War II on our continent, the effects of the 2 World War, First and Second, and the fact that Europe was practically destroyed. History had showed that division was conducive only to war and destruction, and so we decided, the fathers of Europe at the time, the leaders at the time, they decided to start in Europe on new basis of cooperation and sharing of economic resources and building a great market, building a great political community in order to make impossible wars in the future. Take into account the wars had been the usual way of relation within Europe during centuries. Not in the 20th century it was worse because we had two wars that from Europeans became world wars, and they started in Europe. So it was a very enlightened decision to change completely basically the wars of the last few centuries were determined by tensions between 2 main countries in Europe, which were France and Germany. They were opposing 3 different wars during a century. So the idea was putting together the economic resources of France and Germany, created an economic community between France and Germany with the participation of other countries, will eliminate the need for wars. In this sense, the European Union has been extremely successful because not only during 70 years, 60 years, avoided completely the perspective of a war, which is unthinkable, a war within Europe, but also did that increasing very much the level, the welfare of European citizens. So European citizens live incomparably better than they lived before European integration, even though the fact that since 2008 we are now in a global crisis which is affecting very much Europe, has left now the sensation to the Europeans of today. Some Europeans today listening to me, they will tell, no, but Europe has not improved our life because we lived better before 2008, but actually it's not true. If you look at the longer perspective, we still think that Europe is the most prosperous and egalitarian place in the world where to live, where we have the better standard of life, probably better than Europe or Japan or emerging countries, because we have both we have a high level of economic activity, but accompanied by social policies which redistribute. It's true that in the last few years, due to the emergence of new actors on the international scene, due to the fact that the economic conditions in the world have changed, it's true that we are reviewing these mechanisms. So we cannot afford all the social policies that we had so far, and so the European citizens, they see this as a as an effect of Europe. Actually, it's not an effect of Europe,
All
it's an
right.
effect of globalization.
All right. Well, globalization has its effects as well, but there are issues that are going on in Europe as well. By the time the program will be aired, of course, that would have happened. But Brexit, let's talk
yeah.
about Brexit,
But
the fact that the United Kingdom wants or does not want to be part of the European Union. Now, this is a huge debate that has been going on. Why a debate?
Now, listen, the fact that many British citizens had shared feelings about Europe is not new, is not related to the recent crisis. There is a component of British society which has always been reluctant to engage with Europe in the sense beyond trade and commerce. Essentially, the British idea is very much related to exchanging products, goods, services, access to citizens, but not really political. Political union has never been very high as a priority. Actually, there is a real reluctance of the European Union, of Britain to. This has always been there. You remember that Britain did not adhere to the European community in '57 with the others. They entered only in '73. Immediately after '74, there was a referendum already.
Yes.
And this referendum was rejected because, well, clearly was not the moment for that, because the country has decided to go in with the debate, and then it was not the moment to come immediately out. Now, I would say but then they didn't adopt the euro, they didn't adopt the common currency on economic reasons. They didn't adopt a number of protocols, a number of regulations. For example, they didn't adopt the social charter of the European Union because Britain never felt that should be sort of accepting standards fixated by someone else. This is a deep idea about integration that the British have. So there was always a component of the British society reluctant about engaging further. But then, what happened now? Now there has been a serious economic crisis within the European Union. And so these components, which are sort of negative, they become stronger, and so they have become now, according to the polls now, we don't know, it's very balanced. It is more or less a 50-50 situation. People which are undecided, they will decide at the very last moment. Personally, I hope that, as all Europeans, we hope that Britain will decide to stay, because Britain is a very important member of the European Union. Not only is a big country and a big economy, but also it brought a lot of ideas and initiatives to Europe. Maybe they don't also coincide exactly always with the feelings of other members of the European Union, but Britain is certainly a very important European member. Just let me conclude by telling that on economic grounds there is no case for Brexit. The numbers, they tell clearly, and the forecast, they tell clearly that Britain would be worse off outside the European Union. And the business community and the city, even the city, knows very well that. Don't forget that the city is the main financial market for the euro. So there are a number of consequences that are not positive for Britain. But I think that most electors, they don't vote with the economic agenda in their mind. They basically vote on sensations. And now the sensation of Europe is that a weakness rather than strength. Let's hope, let's cross our fingers, and let's hope to have the
let's hope for the best, as we say.
In a couple of days.
There's another issue, of course, that is plaguing Europe as well, the migrant crisis, the deal between Turkey and the European Union. A lot of people are talking ill of all that. Could you clear a bit of the air around that?
Listen, the agreement with Turkey is a complex one. It's not an agreement that you conclude lightly. It's not the typical agreement that you announce after a visit, a standard visit, and you announce a number of new links and you ink a number of new paths. This is a complex issue where there is clearly a trade-off there. Take into account that most of migrants that arrived into Europe after the Syrian crisis, they arrived through the Turkish route.
All right.
Turkey has been pretending wanting to become a member of the European Union since decades now. It's a very long process of negotiation, because I cannot hide that Turkey is a big country to come in, and it would bring a lot of change within the European Union. So since we are in our moment of personal internal crisis due to the economic difficulties, certainly it's difficult to imagine that suddenly Turkey comes in right now. It's also true that in the last 10 years, Turkey has been less interested by joining the European Union due to the fact that the foreign policy of Turkey is rather looked towards Central Asia, Middle East, and Turkey has been very successful there and also economically. So they didn't think lately that joining the European Union would be positive for them. But now they come back to that. Don't forget the European Union is still the first market in the world.
Yes.
And if you are a strong economy, actually you want to be rather in than out. This is also true for the Brits.
Yes.
Before leaving.
Of course, I get it, yes.
So Turkey wants to come in. It's also true that during last summer, when the images of refugees coming from Syria and Iraq appeared on the TVs of all over the world, it's also true that Turkey, that there was the sensation that the border forces of Turkey, they didn't do all they could to stop the flow towards Europe. And so some countries which were not used to receive, and the flows were really dramatic. So it's true that despite the commitment to get 1 million, I mean, Germany said that they would eventually take 1 million on board as refugees. And then as European Union, we took the commitment to take 260,000 of them, to share them among countries. But this incitated more people to go, actually, because unfortunately the situation in Syria is not improving very much. So it was necessary to find an agreement, a practical agreement with Turkey. As I said, it's not the ideal agreement. It's not the agreement that you would dream to negotiate when you are studying as a diplomat. You say, you dream about other kind of peace agreement in Middle East or something like that. But it's a practical agreement that was necessary in order to contain the flow and to put precise rules. Take into account that many people say refugees are not fairly treated in Europe. This is not true. They are absolutely fairly treated. The images you can see on TV, well, they are exceptional situations, but they are not the rule. They are fairly treated. If they have a case for political asylum, it is taken care of. We created separate channels in the sense that Syrians and Iraqis fleeing ISIS are given relatively easily political asylum.
All right.
This creates a tension for other nationalities. Afghans, most of the Afghans, they also have political asylum at the end. It's slightly more difficult. This creates a problem for other nationalities like Pakistan, for example, because there is a considerable number of people going from Pakistan into the European Union through these flows, and there we have an agreement with the government of Pakistan to look at the merits of the cases, but take into account that in the current situation, most Pakistani citizens entering illegally in the European Union, they are considered like economic migrants, so they cannot really build a solid case for political asylum. So this means that or they get a regular contract, working contract and work permit, or most probably they will be repatriated after a while, according to the existing procedures between Pakistan and the European Union. Is the crisis creating problems in Europe? Yes, a lot. Europeans, if you talk to a average European, he will tell you that all migrants of the world are arriving to Europe. Which is not true. Which is not true. We know that.
But why this impression?
The impression is that because of the flow and the media. I mean, the numbers are very important, and the numbers were multiplied by 2, 3, 4 times during the last year, and there were these images of the border in both in Italy is the African route, in Greece is the eastern route. The images are very strong and very so we have a tradition of accepting people. And we will stick to that tradition, but clearly we have to distinguish between different statuses. So we cannot take everyone on board due to our economic situation right now. It's impossible. Take into account that these flows comes at the moment in which Europe is passing through this worst moment in recent economic history. So the European citizen is feeling that, wow, exactly when we have most of our problems, we are accepting refugees. So For this reason, we put a number, 260,000, which is lesser than the total number of people that would enter.
All right.
But in order to fulfill with that, we have to be sure that we keep the right people. So we get the Syrians, the Iraqis, the Afghans. In some cases, people of other nationality can apply for asylum, but it is on basis of individual persecution. I mean, if you are in physical danger, you and your family, for some political, religious reason, can still be considered. But in general terms, it's rather for people fleeing from a war.
All right. So, I mean, it is a tough economic situation right now in Europe, but you are trying to accommodate as much of migrants as possible. But people are saying that Europe is not doing enough, as much as it should do for these migrants.
I'm not totally sure. I mean, the situation, also Europeans are very divided about that. Basically, you have two positions in Europe. You have some people that say, okay, Europe is a rich, despite the crisis, Europe is a rich region in the world, and so we have the resources to take care of all refugees or people escaping from danger and wars that are there. So this is one school of thought. Then you have, on the total opposite side, people they say, no, we don't want, we are in crisis, we have people jobless, we have people that are passing through a very difficult moment, so why we should take care of, and it's a new isolationism. On these, political parties in what we call in Europe the right and the far right of the political spectrum are building an agenda which is anti-European and anti-globalization.
All right.
And so they nurture these fears. We cannot, the debate with migration is totally mixed in Europe with the debate on terrorism, for example. And so it's almost useless for you to try to defend the fact that refugees and terrorists are two different kind of categories. They don't go together. For many average Europeans, they mix the two things. So the bombings in Paris and Brussels, they didn't help at all to the debate. And so there is a sense of mistrust towards people coming from other parts of the world. So this is there. You can know, we cannot. So what happened with the agreement with Turkey? The eastern route is now under control. So there you don't have anymore these hundreds of thousands of people showing at your borders. But the African route is more lively than ever, and so many people from essentially from Africa, but sometimes also from Asia, they come through the African route, which passes through Libya and then Italy, Malta, Libya, Malta, Italy. Take into account that Libya is in a country which is in disarray. There is no government. There are two governments, which is not, it's not a very good idea to have two instead of one. So this means that Libya is not really